You're staring at a photograph of a dead woman and eating a turkey sandwich because this is your life now. Her name was Claire Barton, 34, elementary school teacher. Found in her apartment in a bathtub full of cold water, with her wrists arranged on the porcelain rim, like she was resting. No forced entry. No sexual assault. No robbery. The only thing missing from the apartment is a single Polaroid from a frame on her nightstand. The photo was of her and her dog. You know this because her sister told you, and then her sister cried so hard she couldn't breathe, and you sat there holding a notepad and waiting because that's what detectives do. They wait. They wait for people to stop crying long enough to give them something useful. The sandwich is cold. The photo is colder. Claire is number 3. Number 1 was Angela Reeves, 31, veterinary technician, found in the same position, bathtub, wrists on the rim, cold water, no forced entry, a single photograph missing from a frame in the living room. Number 2 was Dana Moretti, 29, dental hygienist, same signature, same staging, same surgical removal of 1 photograph. 3 women. 3 bathtubs, 3 stolen images. The media hasn't connected them yet because they're in 3 different jurisdictions, and cross-jurisdictional cooperation in this country runs on fax machines and ego. You've connected them because connecting things nobody else connects is the only skill you have that matters. You're 41, homicide detective, 16 years on the job. You've worked 214 cases and cleared 178 of them, which gives you an 83% solve rate, which makes you one of the best in the state, which means absolutely nothing at 2 a.m. when you're looking at crime scene photos and trying to understand why a man arranges dead women's arms like they're sleeping in a painting. Your ex-wife says you're married to dead people. She's not wrong. She left 4 years ago and took the kids to her mother's in Connecticut. You see them every other weekend. They're 9 and 11 now. Your daughter asked you last Christmas what you think about all day, and you said puzzles, because the truth would require a therapist and a bottle of something you promised yourself you'd stop buying. The profile builds itself. You studied behavioral analysis at Quantico on a fellowship the department barely approved. The FBI's method is a 6-step framework that starts with crime scene analysis and ends with apprehension. You're on step 4, profile generation. Here's what you know. He's organized. The scenes are clean. No DNA under fingernails. No hair. No fibers that don't match the victim's own environment. He plans meticulously. He brings his own tools. A ligature you can't identify, and something that sedates without leaving standard toxicology markers. He spends time with the body after death. The posing is deliberate, almost tender. He wants them to look peaceful. The stolen photograph is his signature, his psychological trophy, the thing he takes to relive the experience. The victims share a profile, women in their late 20s to mid-30s, living alone, working in caregiving professions. Teacher, vet tech, hygienist. Women whose job is taking care of others. The behavioral read, he's selecting women who represent something he lost. A caretaker, a nurturer. Someone who was supposed to take care of him and didn't. You present the profile to the task force on a Monday morning. White male, 30 to 45. Above average intelligence. Employed. Possibly medical or veterinary background given the sedation method. Socially competent. Not a loner. Charming enough to gain entry without force. Lives within a 30-mile radius of the murder sites. Keeps the stolen photographs somewhere accessible because he revisits them. Probably has a workspace or room that's private and organized. The room goes quiet. 20 cops looking at you like you just described a ghost. One of them asks, "So, what do we do with this?" You say, "We wait for number 4. It's the worst answer and the only honest one. Number 4 comes 6 weeks later. Sarah Pennington, 33, pediatric nurse, same staging, same bathtub, same missing photograph. But this time, there's something new. A single blonde hair on the bathroom tile that doesn't belong to Sarah. It's the first physical evidence in 4 murders. DNA processing takes 11 days that feel like 11 months. No match in CODIS. He's never been arrested. He's never been swabbed. He's a ghost who sheds. But now you have his DNA, which means the next time he makes a mistake, you'll be able to prove it. The problem is that next time means another dead woman in a bathtub. You start geographic profiling. You map the 4 sites. The cluster forms an arc across the metro area with a center of gravity in a suburban corridor between 2 highways. Statistically, organized serial offenders live within their comfort zone. You narrow it to a 15-mile radius. Within that radius, you pull records on every white male between 30 and 45 with medical training. 847 names. You cross-reference against proximity to the victims. Did any of these men have a connection to Angela's veterinary clinic, Dana's dental office, Claire's school, Sarah's hospital? The database work takes 3 weeks. Your partner handles the legwork. You handle the insomnia. Week 5. A name surfaces. Thomas Hale, 38, veterinary pharmaceutical sales rep. His territory includes Angela Reeves's clinic. He also has a dental appointment history at Dana Moretti's practice, which would be a coincidence if you believed in coincidence, which you stopped doing around murder number 2. You pull his background. Born in Michigan. Mother was a nurse. Father left when he was 7. Raised by a single mother who died of an overdose when he was 16. Foster care. Aged out. Educated himself. Earned a degree in animal science. Clean record. No arrests. No complaints. Registered voter. Pays his taxes on time. On paper, Thomas Hale is the most unremarkable man in America, which is exactly what the profile predicted. You can't get a warrant on proximity and a profile. You need evidence. So you do the thing that will either break the case or break your career. You get close. You start frequenting a bar near Hale's office complex. You sit 3 stools down. You don't approach him. You let him approach you. Because organized offenders are socially competent, curious, and drawn to people who seem interesting. After 2 weeks of reading the newspaper and nursing a beer at the same bar, Hale sits next to you and says, "You're here a lot." You say, "Divorce, cheaper than therapy." He laughs. You've just started the most dangerous conversation of your life. Over the next month, you become something that isn't friends, but occupies the same emotional space. Thursday nights, same bar. You talk about sports, work, weather. He's likable, self-deprecating, thoughtful. He asks good questions and remembers your answers. He remembers that your daughter plays soccer and your son likes drawing. He remembers you take your whiskey neat. One night, he asks about your divorce, and you tell him a version of the truth that's close enough to be convincing. He nods and says, "Some people aren't built for being loved." You write that sentence in your notebook in the parking lot because it's the most honest thing a suspected serial killer has ever said to you, and possibly the most honest thing anyone has said to you in years. The charm is real, and that's what makes it terrifying. Because you've read the case files, you've seen the photographs, and the man buying you a drink once described his mother's death to you with the same flat affect you've seen in interview tapes of convicted killers at Quantico. The emotional channel is there. The signal is absent. Your partner asks you if you're okay. You say yes, she doesn't believe you. She's right not to. The break comes accidentally. Hale invites you to his house for a football game. You say yes. You walk through his door, and your training takes over. Clean. Organized. Minimal decor. A framed photo on the bookshelf of a woman in scrubs, which you later confirm is his mother. And a locked room off the hallway. He calls it his home office. You don't ask about it. You watch the game. You drink his beer. You shake his hand when you leave. And on the drive home, you call your partner and tell her you need a surveillance team on Thomas Hale starting tomorrow. 3 weeks of surveillance. He drives to work. He drives home. He goes to the grocery store. He goes to the bar. The only anomaly is a storage unit he visits every Sunday morning for exactly 45 minutes. You pull the rental records. The unit is in a false name, but the credit card traces back to a prepaid Visa purchased at a pharmacy 2 miles from his house. You go to a judge. You present the profile, the geographic analysis, the proximity to victims, the DNA hair from scene 4, and the storage unit. The judge gives you the warrant for the unit. Not the house. The unit. You open the storage unit at 6 a.m. on a Wednesday with 4 officers and a forensic team. Inside, the unit is immaculate. Shelving. Labeled containers. Climate controlled. On the back wall, pinned to a corkboard with surgical precision, are 4 Polaroid photographs. Angela with her cat. Dana at a birthday party. Claire with her golden retriever. Sarah holding a baby that isn't hers. Below the photographs is a desk with a journal. The journal contains 200 pages of handwriting, so neat it looks typeset. Each entry is addressed to Mom. Each one describes a woman he's been watching, how she moves, how she smiles, how she cares for others the way his mother was supposed to care for him. The last entry is dated 3 days ago. It describes a woman named Rebecca. She works at an animal shelter. She lives alone. She has kind eyes. You arrest Thomas Hale at his office at 9:15 a.m. He doesn't resist. He doesn't speak. He looks at you with an expression you'll spend years trying to decode. It's not anger or fear or surprise. It's recognition. He knew. Maybe not today. But he knew eventually someone would sit 3 stools down and wait. And the look on his face says something that chills you more than any crime scene photograph ever has. It says he's been waiting too. Rebecca is found safe. She doesn't know Thomas Hale's name. She doesn't know she was 72 hours from becoming the 5th Polaroid on a corkboard in a climate-controlled storage unit. You don't tell her. Someone else will, eventually. The DNA from scene 4 matches Hale. The journal entries corroborate the timeline. The Polaroids are incontrovertible. He pleads guilty to avoid the death penalty. 4 consecutive life sentences. No parole. The courtroom is full. The families cry. Angela's mother grabs your hand in the hallway and squeezes it so hard your knuckles crack and says, "Thank you for seeing her." Not for catching him, for seeing her. The prosecutor shakes your hand. The media calls you a hero. The department gives you a commendation and a week of paid leave. You spend the first day of leave sleeping 14 hours. You spend the second day driving to Connecticut. Your kids answer the door, and your son, who's 11 and already taller than you remember, hugs you without letting go for 30 seconds. Your daughter shows you a drawing she made of a detective with a magnifying glass. The detective is smiling. You don't correct the inaccuracy. You go home and sit in your apartment and stare at the wall and feel nothing, because the machinery that makes you good at this job is the same machinery that makes you terrible at everything else. You've spent 14 months inside the mind of a man who killed 4 women because his mother didn't love him enough. And now that mind is empty, and yours is full. Your therapist, who you started seeing 3 months into the case because your hands wouldn't stop shaking during breakfast, says it's called vicarious traumatization, the clinical term for what happens when you spend too long thinking like a predator. The informal term is simpler. You brought the darkness home and forgot to leave it at the door. Your daughter calls that Sunday. She says she saw you on the news. She says she's proud of you. She asks when you're coming to visit. You say soon. You mean it this time. Maybe. You hang up and open the case file for a new homicide that came in overnight. A woman found in her apartment. Staged. Peaceful. Something missing from a frame. Different city. Different signature. Different killer. Same bathtub. You close the file. You open it again. You close it. You open it again. That's the thing about hunting serial killers. You don't choose the work. The work chooses you. And once it does, it rewires your brain so that every quiet room feels like a crime scene. Every charming stranger feels like a suspect. And every Sunday phone call from your daughter feels like a lifeline you're not sure you deserve. You caught the monster. The monster is in a cage. But the cage you built inside your own head to think like him, that cage doesn't have a key. and the next file is already on your desk. That's a wrap for today. The story is fiction, but the profiling is real, the psychology is real, and somewhere right now, a detective is staring at a photograph and eating a cold sandwich and trying to think like someone no sane person should ever think like. If this one got in your head, drop a comment. Subscribe for more. See you in the next one.